Welcome back to the After Sermon. I'm Daniel, and we're sitting down with Eric Parks. Thanks for joining us.
So glad to be here.
It's awesome. Best thing about the After Sermon is we catch you right after the sermon.
Is it the best thing?
I think so, because you literally just gave the sermon we're going to talk about.
That's true.
It's amazing.
Good point. Okay.
So give us a little breakdown of kind of like what you talked about, and then we'll dive into it.
Yeah. Just we're walking through Ephesians, and I've been tasked with chapter 4, which is the hinge of Ephesians. It moves from sort of like this theology of the Christian life into what does it mean for me? Like, how do I live it out? So I taught basically the first 16 verses of chapter 4 of Ephesians.
Okay. So you said we need to look at the therefore.
Yeah.
And I remember some pastor somewhere said, whenever you see a therefore, you should probably ask, well, what's it there for?
Ooh, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. So I love that you did that, because so much of what we've already talked about over the past 3 weeks really is important for chapter 4.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes, honestly, it's actually how we read scripture is tied to this too often. Is we aren't reading the entire narrative, the arc of a letter, and we're just reading verses. And when you do that, you have a tendency to miss the overarching, like, well, what is it that Paul's trying to do in Ephesians 4? And what he's really trying to do is lay out, well, what does it look like to live out your calling based on the reality that God did all these things for you in 1, 2, and 3, right? Chapters 1, 2, and 3. He did all this stuff for you. And we live out of that, like, supreme gratefulness for all the stuff that he's done. So the therefore is like a real big pivot. It's a big hinge. It says, look, sometimes I think we've reduced our faith to a few things. There's a church on Sunday, and there's some things I do and some things I don't do. There's like some behavioral checklist stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying behavior doesn't matter. Paul addresses it in the second half of Ephesians 4. What I am saying is that all of it has to be based in something different. Dallas talks about it this way. He says, look, the goal isn't behavior modification. That's not the goal of Christian spiritual formation. That is not the goal of Ephesians. He isn't laying that out. It is to become the kind of person where, like, humility flows out of me and gentleness flows out of me, where long-suffering, patience flows out of me, where love, agape love, flows out of me, So that is really the therefore is, as he begins to lay out what this Christian life could look like for us, is all predicated on everything that happened in 1, 2, and 3. So that's the therefore. Like, we live according to our calling, not to get God's attention, not because, and I think this is what differentiates us from so many other religions, where there's a standard to live to in order to attain something from that higher being, right? So, like, whether that's, pick a faith that isn't ours, has so much is predicated on, well, like, I perform.
There's an achievement.
So as I perform, well, he says, it's not that you've already been gifted all of these things, right? He says, Jesus has gifted you. And Jesus went down descended to these places, rose from the dead, gifted all believers so that we could build this community of believers that sort of gets really, really sticky. All of that was a gift. It wasn't something that you could ever earn. And so let your life then be a reflection of a gratefulness, like wow, I got all this stuff.
Yeah, it's the living out of that.
Yeah, you live out of that. That's different too.
Yes, no, absolutely. So then the other thing that I think is really important that we need to touch on for sure is you use this phrase, like, you told the story about your dad, and, like, what you deserved, you didn't get, and that's grace, which is amazing. How come we live in this? Sometimes we can live in the thought process of, well, I know what I deserve, and I can't get past that. We get stuck in that, well, like, I can't receive this because it's not what I deserve. I deserve something worse than that. What's that like? Is that embedded in culture? Is that more of like family of origin stuff? Like maybe your experience with your own dad? Like what is that?
Hmm. Well, I mean, that's a really good question. I think we probably would need more time to explore. I do think oftentimes we live as humans we've been brought up in a very merit-based culture. You
Sure.
go to school, you take a test, then you get a grade. It doesn't work the other way around. You don't go to school, get a grade, and then take a test,
Hmm.
right? That's not
Yeah.
how it works.
Right.
Everything is merit-based. We do these things and we get this stuff. God's school doesn't work that way. He's like, yeah, you got an A. Now do the work. That seems backward to us, doesn't it?
Right.
You're like,
Yeah. Oh
wait,
yeah.
wait,
No.
wait, wait, wait. That's not how it works. I gotta do all this work, and then I'm gonna get what I deserve. And so often, I think that's what happens is like, yeah, but I don't really deserve the grace. I don't deserve the forgiveness. Um, I can't forgive myself.
Hmm.
I can't move past it, and we just don't allow ourselves to sit in that. And here's the truth: this is why the Apostle Paul in verse 2 of Ephesians 4 starts with the word humility. There's almost a false humility. It's like sometimes when you live in that posture, you're like, I don't deserve it. And there's
Right.
a form of humility there, right? Humility is understanding, like, hey, I don't really deserve everything that I've been given. But what the Apostle Paul is laying out for us is, well, great. Then live your life in such a way that is reflection of this beautiful gift you've been given. God already knows. Look, I think too often we walk around thinking, it's like, God don't look my way. We're
Yeah.
hiding.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, he already knows.
Right.
He already knows your worst day. And on your very worst day, he extends to you this gift. On your worst day, not your best.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it takes work, depending on your conscience and your personality and your
Sure.
disposition, all those things, family of origin, to move past mistakes. But I think that's what makes this message of Ephesians so beautiful. It's like, yeah, God already knows.
Yeah.
He sees that you kind of wrecked it. And he's still like, yeah, come on into my family.
Hmm. Okay. So I think another thing that this really hits on, and we've talked about it a little bit, but I just really want to like kind of zero in on this idea of like, faith. What's that quote? I'm horrible at
That's
remembering
fine.
quotes. Faith isn't opposed.
Yeah, it isn't opposed to grace. It's,
yes.
Grace. Yeah. So Dallas talks about effort.
Yes.
Grace
Effort.
isn't opposed to effort. It's opposed to earning.
Right.
And so the idea behind this is that, no, I mean, that's what the Apostle Paul's saying.
Yeah.
Therefore, live in a manner worthy of your calling. That is effort, right?
Yes.
But he lays out very clearly then in the rest of the 14 verses, this was a gift. You did not earn it. That's actually what makes it so beautiful.
Right.
Is like you can't earn this. And that then starts to put the checklist in a different spot. Like it's like, I don't have these things that I'm checking off in order to be good so that God says, oh, you're really good. And here's the thing. It's not just God. The truth is, we're real bad practitioners of grace with each other.
Ooh,
and so when
yeah.
we're in this faith community, sometimes we're not as worried about what God's thinking. We're thinking about, what Larry's thinking and
Right.
Larry's judgment of me. And how many times do we look across and say, I just can't believe that they're doing that. I just can't believe we passed this judgment.
Yeah.
And that's why the Apostle Paul lays out this vision where he says, he uses one in verse 6, I believe, 7 times.
Yes. Yeah.
Where he's saying, listen. You guys, all of this isn't just for you. Like all of this living worthy of your calling and humility and gentleness, it isn't just for you. It's like All this is coming from one God. It's for this community, this family that we're building. And guess what? You are all brothers and sisters of that same God. So whatever he's passing to you, he's passing to you.
Yeah.
So like, who am I
Right.
to stand in judgment of the world around me? Now, again, it's like, people hear that and they're like, well, are you soft on sin? Or I'm like, well, no, it's just, we're all pretty broken.
Yeah.
And I know what I deserve. I'm going to work my tail to live worthy of that calling. But I'm also going to give space for my brothers and sisters who love Jesus, as the Apostle Paul says, to grow into that faith. As he says, the reason why he gave us the gift is to grow us up, to transform us. And that doesn't happen like overnight. And for each one of us, the process is different. And like, there's a grace that almost, as I get it, I want to extend.
You can extend it, yeah.
Chad Brugman often says the big challenge for us as believers is we want grace for me and judgment for you. And this community that we're creating is one that is just filled in that same level of like, hey, we're brothers and sisters of this beautiful God who loves us so much. And yes, I'm going to challenge you to live worthy of that calling, but I'll give you space to grow, because like a 5-year-old is in a different place than a 15-year-old. And a 15-year-old is a different place than a 35-year-old. And until he takes us home, we'll be on this growth trajectory, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think just that very concept resets this idea of like, good, better, best Christian. It's like, no, like we're all believers of the same God, and we're all on a journey. But like we all receive the same gift. We're all starting in the same place.
Well, sometimes I think it's really easy to feel better about yourself if you can look at someone else and go, well, yeah, but I'm not as bad as Jerry. Look at Jerry. He's
sorry, all the Jerrys.
Sorry, Jerry. It's like Jerry's really got it messed up, and so there's a temptation to look, and so I just think there's so much tied into this. You can't really cover it even in this after sermon. I think we could talk for 45 minutes. This is so foundational, though, right? Like when you think about the Christian life, this is like, I think you could live in this for a while and just like, there's so much richness to these 16 verses that define everything. Because it's like, this puts the trajectory on the right course. Because if you're just a few degrees off, you get down the road and realize, wow, I've built a faith that honestly, I know. Look, if you've grown up in the church, you know these things. Oh, it's all about faith, not works. And yet, so often the way in which we live with one another and live with ourselves is not that way. And so I just think a constant reminder of what the Apostle Paul was challenging us to was living worthy of this beautiful grace. Look, if grace doesn't make you uncomfortable, then maybe it's just not amazing enough. That's all I have to say about that.
We'll end there. Okay, you got your tasks. Read Ephesians chapter 4. If you want to watch the message that this conversation was based on, you can go to our YouTube channel. Or if you want to listen to it, you can go to wherever you get your podcasts and do it there. Until next time, thanks so much.
I bid you adieu.